Right, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Giles Murphy from Smith & Williamson, and you're going to hear from me for about the next 15 minutes or so, a bit about Smith & Williamson, a bit about myself, and then also we're here to answer any questions that you've got. So maybe if I start by giving you a little bit of background to myself. As I say, my name's Giles Murphy. I have a role at Smith & Williamson that focuses around developing the strategy in the professional services side of the business, which is our accountancy side. I joined Smith & Williamson on the 12th of August 1991, which I do appreciate means that was probably before most of the people were even born on this call. I actually studied economics and accountancy at university, and I actually thought the accountancy bit was really rather dull and boring. But back in 1991, there was a heavy recession on, so I really grabbed the first job that came along. And I suppose what I learned was that actually accountancy is not just about the theory and just numbers. Clearly they are the basis, but actually it's about variety, it's about problem solving, it's about developing relationships with clients and also developing people within the organisation, which is probably the bit that gives me the most thrill. So if I tell you a bit about Smith & Williamson then, you've probably heard a number of these presentations from other accountancy firms, and essentially I'm going to start by saying we do all that at Smith & Williamson, but actually what I'm going to focus on is why Smith & Williamson is a bit different to all the other firms out there. The purpose of Smith & Williamson, indeed our sort of reason for being, the reason why we exist, is to help our clients, help people achieve their financial objectives. And we do this in a different way to other firms because we are unique. We are both an accountancy firm, but also a financial services firm. What that means is if you look at our statistics, the firm is split roughly 50-50, but back at 30th of April, our year end, we managed about 20 billion of funds under management, managing portfolios of stocks and shares. And we also advise people on their financial aspects of their own affairs, their retirement planning, whether they want to save for something, how best to go and prepare themselves for their future. And that is in addition to all the normal services you'd expect in an accountancy firm. So at the end of the day, it means that Smith & Williamson, our clients are really just people who own things. If they own stocks and shares, then we manage their portfolio. They might own property, and we can look after the tax affairs and the reporting of that. Or they might own a company. And of course, if they do own a company, we can provide audit services, we can provide corporate tax services and lots of other services to both the company and the individual. But crucially, we try and look at both the individual's affairs and the company all as one. Maybe if I give you a few examples of types of clients that we've got. Given the nature of what I said, we do a lot of work with entrepreneurs. You may have seen recently the Sunday Times published the Tech Track 100, which is the 100 fastest growing tech companies. Smith & Williamson actually act for around 30% of those 100 companies. We're also founders of the Scale Up Institute, which was a government-backed organisation to help entrepreneurial businesses expand further. So us, the London Stock Exchange, the likes of Google, etc., helped set up this organisation. Because at the heart of these entrepreneurial clients, we have a number of examples where clients come to us, they've got an idea. They might have a bit of a software, an app, or something that they think is going to change the world. At the initial stage, they'll need some funding. We help them get that. They'll need some help running their books and records, maybe even operating their payroll. And we can do all of those basic services. As they grow, they might want to seek more funding. Again, we can help them raise that. And we can help them recruit people, bring people in as the business develops. We had an example in the summer where one such business, we actually advised the business on and we generate over £50 million worth of sale proceeds for the owner of the business. And hey, guess what happens? The owner has been spending the last months focusing so much on the sale, they genuinely didn't think what to do with that £50 million. So what we did was we said, well, let's introduce you to our investment colleagues, and we are now managing a substantial proportion of that money. Quite often what happens with these entrepreneurs is that all they ever dreamed of was selling their business, making some money, and then lying on a beach. But actually, in reality, surprising as it may seem, they often find that lying on the beach is a bit boring. So it wouldn't surprise me if this client who sold his business for £50 million in a couple of years will come back to us and say, do you know what? I'd like to take some of that money because I'm going to start all over again. I want to invest in this business. And of course, we can then advise on that. So this whole virtuous circle goes round and round. If that's what you might class as new money, we also act for old money. We have a strong service sector basis in the landed estates. So a number of the large estates around the UK that own a number of the stately homes and the farms and the land around it are our clients. Those sorts of businesses are what you might call asset rich, but cash poor. And therefore, a lot of what we do is help them manage that profile. And indeed, some of those businesses themselves are very innovative, very entrepreneurial, moving from an environment where traditionally agriculture was the main source of income to a lot of them developing solar power, tourism, and other areas of their business as well. Now, because of Smith & Williamson's unique structure of both being an accountancy firm and a financial services firm, we are financially a very secure business. Often, that doesn't actually make that much difference to people working in the business, but it's worth just reflecting on the last 6 months or so. Clearly, we are living in really quite unprecedented times during the pandemic, and clearly a number of firms have suffered financially as a result. I'm pleased to report that Smith & Williamson, because of its strong financial background, over the summer has not furloughed any members of staff, unlike a number of other accountancy firms. We carried on with recruitment during this period. We also continued with our pay review and our promotion round on 1st of July this year. And I'm also delighted to say that we made the biggest one-off donation of £125,000, the biggest in the firm's history, to a number of food banks over the summer months, very much coming from what colleagues, people in the business thought was the right thing to do. Up to you whether you think that's important or not, but maybe it's a question for you when you're being interviewed by other firms to ask them what their approach was to the pandemic and how financially secure their business is. I suppose the question most of you are probably asking, what exactly is it going to be like for me if I come and join Smith & Williamson? Well, we train people much the same way as other firms do. We train people to pass their professional exams. But I think where Smith & Williamson might be different is the variety of clients that you work on. If you come and join Smith & Williamson, you don't join a particular sector group. Personally, I think if you know you want to be the finance director of BP in later life, brilliant. Go and join one of the big four accountancy firms, work in their oil and gas sector. But my guess is you probably don't know where your future career is going to be. And therefore, if you come and join us, you may find that one day you're working on a recruitment firm, another day it might be one of these tech companies, the next day a law firm, and then you might find you're working on one of these stately homes and these landed estates. Personally, we believe that that gives you a more rounded education. We think it gives you better experience, and quite often it means that you can apply things you've learned in one area to somewhere else. So I think the variety of clients that you get at Smith & Williamson will be different. It's worth saying that actually, of course, some of these clients, they are quite demanding. They're particularly inspiring, some of these entrepreneurs that we work with, but they are quite demanding people. So they expect their professional advisors to be working hard for them and finding out solutions. But personally, that's an environment that I think really drives me forwards. I think the other aspect with Smith & Williamson is that you will get more opportunities because of the unique range and the vast range of services that we do provide. If you start off in a certain area of the business, there will be opportunities through secondments to go and work in other aspects of the business. So I've got colleagues who originally started with me in the audit department who now work in our business tax environment, our private client tax environment, in our corporate finance team, and some of them have moved to other regions around the country. And I've also got colleagues who now work on our investment side. And actually that's very useful for me because it means there's always someone there who I can pick up the phone to, who I know well when I've got queries. In terms of my experience at Smith & Williamson, then after 30 years, what I'm really looking forward to now is identifying those who can carry on the strength of the firm going forwards. My role at the moment does range between working 1 minute on strategy through to recruitment, involved in things like this. I'm also project sponsor for our document management system project that we hope to bring in the next 18 months. I sit on the firm's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. I'm also on the project steering group for our new premises at 45 Gresham Street, which we'll move into in spring 2022. So you can see how variety has really impacted me during the firm, but there are lots of opportunities for people who join the firm to get involved in all of these different areas. So I would very much suggest that you should look at Smith & Williamson. It may not be right for you in terms of what you're looking for, but you will join a very secure business financially, one that gives you a lot of variety, one that gives you a lot of career opportunities, and hopefully a real base to develop your career further. But, and it would be very remiss of me not to mention this, it gets even more exciting. On the 1st of September, Smith & Williamson merged with another organisation called Tilney. Tilney have got real strength on the financial planning investment management side. So we've really bolstered that side of the business. This has created a lot of excitement within the organisation. We managed to secure the transaction over the summer during this COVID period, where a lot of other organisations were just battening down the hatches and weren't really focused on the future. We think the current pandemic environment gives the firm a real opportunity to steal a bit of a march on our competitors. So it's a very exciting time at Smith & Williamson, which we believe may well culminate in the listing of the group, probably in the next 2 to 3 years or so. Lots to be done between now and then, but it's a place where things are happening, and we're really excited about the prospect of recruiting in another high intellectual group of people who can help us continue on that journey. So that's pretty much all I was going to say about Smith & Williamson, but I'm going to be joined by Elmer, who works in our recruitment team, and we're really now available to answer any particular questions that you might want to pose to us. I can certainly answer questions more on perhaps the firm, the experience of students, whereas Elmer's here and she can answer questions on the actual process itself. So please do fire in any questions that you've got for us now.
Hello everyone, and I'm Lizzie, so I'm from Rate My Placement. So I have joined to basically answer any questions that you've got. So please keep popping them in the chat. I've got some great questions. I loved hearing all about that, Giles.
Thank you.
Yeah, such a varied journey and varied role that you've had, and I can see how passionate you are about it as well. So it's really nice to hear. So if I just go in with some of the questions that I've got that I've written down, and I've got a few that the audience have sent in. So yeah, keep on popping them in the chat. So the first one that I'd love to know is, what inspires you to go into accountancy all those years ago?
Well, it's a very good question. As I said, actually, I tried to avoid going into accountancy at the time. But I think the problem I suffered from was I thought it was really just all about number crunching, getting my calculator out, adding up numbers. I'm delighted to say, and probably the reason why I've stayed so long, is that, of course, there are numbers underlying what we do, and an element of what we do is looking at the numbers. But it's far more about interpreting what the numbers are saying, explaining to people what the numbers mean, using your judgment to identify how the numbers can best be used. And it's that interaction, the people side of things, both with my colleagues but also clients, that really inspires me. And the variety is fantastic. And as I say, one day I can be talking to the managing partner of a big law firm. The next day I'm talking to an entrepreneur who's literally trying to scrabble together some money just to set up his business. And that variety is what keeps me going.
And it sounds like you really enjoy the variety and helping people, like from the small entrepreneurs to the big clients.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe at the heart of me, there is some entrepreneurial spirit, but I'm just too cautious, too prudent to actually go it alone and set up my own business. So I get huge satisfaction out of seeing clients achieve their success. As I said at the beginning, achieving their financial objectives. And it is genuinely really gratifying where, a client's got a real problem. It's really causing them a lot of angst, but you can help them come up with a solution. Quite often, what you say is very simple, straightforward, but you can see it from a different angle, and they are hugely appreciative of that.
Love that. One that links to that, then, we've had a question from Rihanna in the audience. What is the culture like at Smith & Williamson?
Good question. We're just actually going through a culture survey at the moment, so maybe I should come back and answer that question, Rihanna, in a few weeks' time. But I think the culture of the organisation, it's very client-centric. We're very much focused on putting the clients at the heart of everything that we do. It's quite a fun organisation. We do work hard, but we like to do that in a flexible way. We like to support people. We like to have fun. I mean, bluntly, we all spend, a significant proportion of our waking time working. And I don't think it's very conducive if people are doing that against their will or being forced to do something. So we try and have a very collegiate, supporting environment where people actually enjoy what they do. And my basic premise is if people are enjoying what they do, they tend to do it just a little bit better. And I think that has benefits for them and their colleagues.
Yeah, definitely. And I think activities wise, do you have any examples or any sports teams or things like that? Because that's always good for students to hear what you offer.
Yeah, well, it's all, unfortunately, over the last 6 months, it's all gone fairly quiet, it's fair to say. Yeah. We've moved to having Zoom competitions. So there certainly was a Zoom cheese on toast competition that happened in one of our offices where everyone had to go and make their own cheese on toast and then present it on Zoom. I wasn't involved, so I can't comment any more on that. So we've all gone sort of the virtual. Hopefully, the world will return to some sense of normality in the not too distant future. In terms of sort of the social activities, I think they really revolve around two things. There's one, the informal side of things. And quite often you'll have people out at clients and they'll come back to sort of the office late on a Friday afternoon. And that's when they bump into colleagues. And more often than not, you get people saying, oh, fancy going for a quick drink or fancy going for a bite to eat tonight. And quite often, social interaction happens on that basis. The more formal social interactions are where we organise events. And they range from quiz nights to table tennis competitions to going go-karting to, treasure hunts, lots of sort of interactions. And the great thing about any sort of accountancy firm is that I think to me, it's a bit of an extension of being at school, being at university in terms of your social group. In terms of our audit department, certainly in London, where I sit close to, the average age of the team there is probably mid to late 20s. So there's quite a lot of youthful sort of enthusiasm, and a lot of friendships are built around that. Indeed, a lot of people end up renting houses together, flats together, because they make friendships. And we even have people who end up getting married. But within a 30-year period that I've been there, I suppose you'd like to think that at least within that period, one or two people might actually get together like that.
I love that. And I love that you said about the table tennis table, because we have one of them at Rate My Placement headquarters. It's great.
We do have in one of our regional offices, we do have a bit of extra space, and there is a table tennis table in there. But I'm not going to tell you which one it is, because that might skew people's office, which they decide to apply to.
Excellent. One for everyone to hopefully find out if they apply. So.
Indeed.
Okay, and I'm just conscious, so time-wise, we've got another kind of 10 minutes, haven't we, with you, Giles?
Yes, that's fine.
And then we've got some time. If we'll come on to Alma and do more of the recruitment questions, if that's all right, just so everyone knows in the audience, we're not ignoring your questions. We're just making the most of the time we've got. So one thing I wanted to pick up on was the merger that you mentioned. That sounded really, really interesting, and something that, again, I guess from your side, this huge thing happening must have been really exciting, but I guess just quite intriguing. So I just had a question around what was it like to go through that merger?
Well, we're obviously only about a month in, so it's early days from that point of view. I think the first thing is, we announced the merger, the intention to merge, sort of early part of this calendar year. Then, of course, we all went into this pandemic lockdown. And I think a lot of people externally, a lot of people internally, thought that actually, well, that will be it. The merger will be on hold. But it was remarkable. A lot of work was done behind the scenes at a really sort of, unsettling, uncertain time. So we were really pleased to get the merger over the line. To us, it demonstrates there is real sort of potential there. So we're really now spending time getting to learn our new colleagues. The great thing is, I've already had a cup of coffee with someone who works, if you like, on the Tilney side of the business. I was at school with that individual, didn't even know they were at Tilney, so we've re-established links. And it's all about trying to provide a greater breadth and depth of service to our clients. So this guy, David, who I met up with, he's already introduced me to one of his clients. We've got just the sort of services they need. And that's what it's all about, really trying to provide a much deeper, broader service to our clients. But it's a really exciting time when I think a lot of the world and a lot of businesses are really sort of trying to be quite prudent, quite cautious, uncertain of the future. there's a real sort of enthusiasm and can-do attitude at the firm at the moment, which I think is really good. It's really good at any time of the cycle, but particularly when all you hear is doom and gloom. When you look on websites, news websites and everything, there's a real positive buzz about the place at the moment.
No, that's so important. Culture and buzz and being in a positive environment is so key. So it sounds like you've got bundles of it where you are. So really, really good. Okay, so have we got any more questions from the audience around? Just to check if we've got anything for you especially. Got quite a few recruitment ones, which is great. Oh, this is a lovely one. So what are some of Smith & Williamson's initiatives regarding sustainability? Do you have anything there?
Good question. Good question. I'm now going to sort of recite CO2 per tonne, etc., statistics to everyone. So our corporate social responsibility is a key part of the firm. We think it's fundamental that we are a good citizen and support the communities. We have 4 pillars that we operate under. One is clients, and that's about doing the right thing, investing in the right things for clients. One is about our people, well-being. One's about supporting the community charities. I mentioned this large charitable donation we've given. But the 4th one is what you were touching upon there, which is the environment. And we're spending quite a bit of time trying to better understand what our carbon footprint is and how we can actually adapt our business. The wonderful thing about the pandemic is that actually it's forced us to try a lot of things very quickly. We've rapidly reduced the amount of air travel, for example, that our colleagues do. We've moved to Zoom. When the world returns to a more normal sense of operating, I expect air travel will come back again, but not to the same extent as it did before. Our paper usage has, funnily enough, gone down dramatically because people aren't sitting in the office printing all along. So I think we're learning really quite quickly some of the initiatives that have almost been forced upon us, but what we want to do is hang on to when we sort of return, as I say, back to more office working and more normal operation. And we are looking at the moment as to what would it take us to become a carbon neutral business? And I think that's a really interesting exercise. I don't know the answer yet, but I think the fact we're exploring those sorts of things sort of demonstrates the attitude that the firm has got.
Yeah, and that's hugely important, especially for a lot of our students and I guess just the world in general. I think we've become very much more conscious, haven't we, about the world around us. So that's really, really great that you're doing some work around that. Cool. Okay, so I've got a big question. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this. What's your favourite thing about working at Smith & Williamson out of everything?
Gosh, this is where I claim my Wi-Fi link's gone down and I can't possibly answer that question. What's my favourite thing? Do you know what the favourite thing about Smith & Williamson is, and this is because I've been in there for a period of time, is when I see one of the graduates who I can remember joining 5, 10, 15 years ago get promoted to the grade of partner. Now, that's a route that I've been through. Of course, it doesn't happen to all of our graduates and school leavers who come through. But that gives me real satisfaction because I've probably had some involvement with that individual through their career. And whenever that happens, I always make sure there is an appropriate celebration of someone reaching that achievement. But that's probably the bit that I think is the most favourite aspect, is seeing someone fulfil their career potential and reach the heights of becoming a partner at Smith & Williamson.
Wow, I can imagine that is so rewarding. Yeah, amazing. What with that in mind then, from seeing probably quite a few students go through that whole process, what advice would you give to students who are listening to you now, who have seen people, I guess, that they want to be in the future? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot, saying, wow, Giles, you've managed to progress through the firm. You know, I joined 91, I was a partner in 98, I was running a team 2003. Gosh, you must be brilliant, you must be really clever or something to achieve all that. And I just reflect and think, I don't think I am. I stare at myself in the mirror and think, I'm just an ordinary sort of person. I think, what have I done? I mean, my advice to people is, yes, you work hard, but it's not about just doing hours. It's about working smart. And what I mean by that is really identify what are the things that matter and focus on those things. Identify what are the key things that, you know, the person above you and the grade above focuses on. What are their good attributes? And just say, okay, I want to do a bit of that. The other thing I would advise everyone to do is to volunteer for things, get involved in things, because that's how you really learn and develop as an individual. If you stick to just one thing, you're never really going to develop. But throw yourself at things, get involved in things, volunteer for things. More often than not, you'll get things wrong when you do that. Boy, if I listed out the mistakes I've made at Smith & Williamson, it would be a massive long list. But that's how we learn from things. And the crucial thing is that we take that experience and then we apply it in a more positive way going forward. So, you know, work out what's important, work hard, but not hours, focus smartly on what matters, and throw yourself in at everything is my view.
Great advice. And that's what I love about that, is prompted a few more people to ask some questions.
Okay, keep coming. Yep.
Do well. So this one, great one from Kerry. So it links very nicely to that question. So what what skills have you mastered, developed and improved on working with Smith & Williamson?
Gosh, I was quite a shy individual when I first joined the firm. And what I learned quite quickly was actually, you know, you've got to have the confidence to engage with people in a way that's, you know, I don't personally think confrontation is the best way to engage with people, but it's trying to work out what the right buttons are to get someone to open up. And I'm still learning that now. So when I go and talk to someone for the first time, what I'm really trying to do is work out what are their interests, how do they like to operate, what are their key concerns. And it's always trying to unlock them to try and build that relationship, because if you can build that trusting relationship, whether it's with a colleague or a client, that's when you can really help them out and really sort of solve their problems for them. So I think that's the skill that I've had to learn, and I'm still learning. But that's part of the excitement, I guess.
Yeah, and working with people, I guess you work with so many different types of people, so you're constantly learning how different people operate and how to, as you say, push different buttons to ensure that you get the right outcome. Yeah,
I mean, there are some colleagues who I know they're very private. They don't want to talk about their private life. But there are other colleagues where I know what the GCSE results are of their third child, because, you know, we engage with them, but it matters to them. So it matters that they can remember, that I can remember the name of their children, and I ask them how their children are. And it's just, as I say, trying to work out what really matters to individuals.
Great advice there. So the last question I think we've got time for before you've got to shoot off. So a lovely one to end on. So what advice would you have liked to have heard when you were starting out?
What advice? Accountancy is not boring, and it's not all about numbers. It's about people, it's about problem solving, it's about variety, and it's about having a wonderfully fulfilling career. So absolutely go for it, throw yourself at it. The great thing is that if you get an accountancy qualification, it opens up just so many doors for a future career in whatever you decide, you know, suits your fantasy and desires.
Brilliant. I mean, what a way to end. If everyone remembers that when they're thinking of applying, then that's brilliant. So thank you so much, Giles. That's really insightful, really interesting. And I think we'll have to let you go now.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Good luck, everyone, with that. And I'll leave you in the capable hands of Lizzie and Elmer. Hopefully see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, fabulous. Well, so many great stories. How inspirational is he?
Oh, he's amazing. Oh. He's so amazing. So can you hear me okay?
It's all right. It was on mute. I think it was on mute, but we're all good. I can hear you now. Yeah. Sorry, you were just saying.
Oh, perfect. I was just saying, Giles is absolutely fabulous. So I joined Smith & Williamson as the trainee recruitment manager in December. And you can imagine I'm just trying to really get a really good understanding of the business, really good to speak with senior stakeholders. And in terms of senior stakeholders, he's just been so supportive of recruitment, really active in our internship program as well in the summer, which had to take a bit of a shift due to the pandemic. And he's always that energetic, always that passionate. It is phenomenal. I'm really pleased that everybody there in the audience had an opportunity to kind of like meet with him and ask him questions. So that was fab.
Yeah, very, very inspirational. So we've got some great questions here then to ask you more on a recruitment front. So I guess if the first one's probably just to cover from your side, what kind of opportunities have you got at Smith & Williamson? Just a bit of an overview.
Yeah, let's go with the basics. So across our accountancy arm, so the professional services arm, we have got graduate opportunities. So those are starting in September 2021, and you'll see all of those advertised on our website. If anybody knows of any school leavers who might be interested in roles, they're also currently live on our website. And in the next weeks, we will be posting our 12-month placement roles and 6-week summer internship opportunities, which will be starting in July 2021. And that is across the board in terms of accountancy, so covering audit, tax, and transaction services as well.
Brilliant. Lots of different ways to get into Smith & Williamson then. Really, really
exactly, yeah.
And I guess that flows nicely onto what's the application process like?
I will start off by saying, instead of people trying to like scribble down notes, on our website, so if you go onto Smith & Williamson, follow the link onto careers and then trainee careers specifically, you will find some really useful links on there. And one of which is obviously the application process itself, but I will go through it briefly now. So everyone will be asked, irrespective of the program that you're interested in, you will need to initiate an application online. That takes 15-20 minutes to complete. After that point, you will then be prompted to take part in an online, couple of online tests, one of which is verbal and the other is numerical. Once you've gone through that stage and successfully made it onto the next stage, which is a video interview. Now, that video interview isn't live. That can be recorded at your leisure. And again, not too onerous. It's probably another 10 to 15 minutes. But obviously, you're going to prepare for that as you would a normal face-to-face interview. So after the video interview, we're obviously keen that you get to meet with us, kind of like in person. So it would be an assessment centre. Now, obviously, pre-pandemic, we would have done this in the office. It would have been a half day. Lunch would have been included. So we've had to adapt, just like our competitors. So it will be done online and through MS Teams. And what we thought about when we thought about that, we didn't want to just replicate it straight from a half day in person to a half day on the screen. That's way too much for everybody involved. So it'll cross over 2 days in the same week. So the first day, you will go through a written exercise, and that'll be followed nicely with a bit of a Q&A session with some of the trainees who are specifically working in the teams that you are actually applying for. So, a great example, I think, of where we're demonstrating the process is very much two-way. It's not just all about us finding if you're right for us. It's about you establishing whether we're the right firm for you to start your career with. That second day, as part of the virtual assessment centre, will be a group exercise. So there you can imagine we're looking for your ability to work as a team, communicate effectively and collaborate with others. And followed by an interview. So that'll be a one-to-one interview. It's not really one-to-one, it's 1-to-2, in that you'll be meeting 2 members of the senior team that you'll be joining. And again, that process very much half and half. We'll be finding out about you, and you'll have ample opportunity to find out about us. If everything goes to plan, we should then have an answer for you in that week, or not potentially even at the end of that final second date. So we want to move quickly, and we can make decisions quickly. But thereafter, if you do want to connect with other members of the team to come to a decision, again, I'm very open to that. It doesn't necessarily end at that final interview stage.
Great, really thorough. Yeah.
I've been well practiced now, Lizzie. We've had the booth yesterday. So I've got it down to hopefully a fine art. But one of the things I will say about the process is we appreciate that you are putting so much effort into not just our application form, but that of many others. And you'll be investing so much time, so much energy. And I just want everybody to know, if you do come and and apply to us, as you go through the process, I promise you we'll be doing as much as possible to set you at ease, make sure you're comfortable, because that's how you're going to be showing your best, and that you're fully prepared. There's going to be no tricky questions, nothing to try and slip you up or anything like that. It's just a very good kind of like two-way process, I hope, and that you'll find that that's the case.
That sounds so good. I think often people worry, don't they, that it's all a huge test, but actually it's for you to see, like for the individual to see if you're right for them, and then for you if they're right for you. So sounds really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so with that in mind, we're thinking of the application, sort of the application process. Is there anything that you could, I guess, talk about in terms of what you're looking for in those applications? What really makes a student stand out?
Yeah, so this is a very common question, and I don't think I'm going to be giving any unique answer to it. So essentially, as I've mentioned before, you will be applying for other firms. You should be applying for other firms. We're not going to be surprised by that. I guess when you're going through the application process, and specifically on the application form, we don't want to feel that. We want to feel that it is just, you've only got eyes for us as an employer, which means, do your research. Make sure that you're finding ways in which the information you're providing about yourself is actually tied in to not just maybe accountancy career, but a specific career in accountancy within Smith and Williamson. So look about how you can do that. Giles has gone through lots of information already about what makes us different. So pick those things out, have a look on our website, go beyond our website, look at what's happening within the industry, have a look into what your thoughts are maybe about it, and see how you can get that into the form. The classic mistake, and we see it so often, is that simple, obvious cut and paste of an answer. I mean, we've even seen our company name being replaced, instead being replaced by, a competitor's. Yeah. So, make sure you're not making those kinds of basic mistakes. I think will probably be my tips.
Yeah, really good tips. Put your all into it, basically, and make sure you do not copy it.
No, do not copy and paste, and just, I think if you're preparing as you go, if it's all a bit too quick, if it's all happening a bit too quickly, then perhaps you're not putting in as much energy as possible. So just maybe pause a little bit and kind of go, oh, okay, am I talking specifically to Smith and Williamson here, or is it sounding a little bit generic? And I think that's where you can really up your application.
Yeah. Really, really good advice. It's passion, isn't it? That's what we want. I've got a lovely question from the audience here. So it's kind of linking to this, but specifically for the video interview. So we've got any top tips on succeeding the video interview?
Yes. So the video interview is kind of twofold. Number one, you've got to be looking at the content of what it is that you're saying. So that obviously requires a lot of preparation. I think you can expect in the way of questions, there'll be some competency-based questions. So, make sure you do your research online about how can you best answer those kinds of questions. We have a preference for the STAR method, so definitely have a look into that. And my top tip for making sure that your answers are structured really well and that you're coming across, will probably make a lot of you squirm. I know it'll make me squirm, is to actually record yourself. So maybe have a friend who can do a Lizzie who be your Lizzie, who will pose a question to you. Actually record yourself, and then the dreaded watching back. That's the only way you can just look at the structure of what you're saying, but then also how you're coming across. Whether it be in terms of not just your body language and your facial expressions or the tone and everything of your voice, but also the background. So now if I twizzle this camera just a few kind of like meters, you will be seeing a very, very messy kitchen. So very mindful that, it looks very kind of like pretty and well put together. So be conscious of those details as well. But yeah, definitely my top tip, record yourself.
Yeah.
You can.
Really good. It's a bit awkward. Yeah, it is a bit awkward. So if it is, don't worry about it. That's normal.
Yeah. It is, and we're all getting used to this platform as well, and looking at everybody online. And right now I'm desperately trying to look at what I think is the camera. I don't know if I'm succeeding or not, but little tricks like that are also really good for making sure that you come across well.
Yeah, really, really good advice. Love it. So a few more. So we've got some around actually applying. So if someone has applied for a summer internship but didn't get it, can they still apply for graduate roles the following year?
Yes, they can. So you might see something on our website when you go to apply that it says you've applied within 365 days. And if that's the case, but it's a different program and it's a different recruiting season, do get in touch with us directly. The reason we say that is if you failed at something like a while ago, the likelihood is you need a bit of time to develop that particular skill set. So maybe you haven't succeeded through the numerical and verbal reasoning kind of like tests. Well, there's not much point in us allowing you to apply again just a few weeks later. The likelihood is you wouldn't have developed that particular skill, those particular skills. So we do like to say only one application per season.
Okay, yeah, really good. And linking to that, so deadlines, always the important date. Do you have deadlines for, so if someone's asked specifically for the graduate job, but I guess just deadlines across all of your programs would be really useful?
Yes, it would be useful, wouldn't it? If I could give you all a date and you could all aim for it. I don't have a date, I'm sorry. We recruit on a rolling basis, and I think a few firms do a very similar thing. And what I would say to you is, if you see a role on our website that's currently open and you're really passionate about it, please apply sooner rather than later. What I mean when I say we recruit on a rolling basis is as soon as we have the right number of candidates coming through the process that looks like the number will sufficiently enable us to recruit for the number of spots we have available, we will close down a role. So from one day to the next, a role can be open and closed. So I'd hate for anybody to kind of be disappointed, but please do apply as soon as you can. And in general, if companies do have a closing date, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll look at all the applications up until the closing date and then decide from all of those applications who to progress. It might be that they're still prioritizing those who've come through earlier. So either way, a date or no date, my top tip would be apply as soon as possible.
Yeah, brilliant. Get in there early. That's the...
Well, Lizzie, so, we'll say for London, for example, at the beginning of the season, we've got 20 roles to fill. If you're coming in a bit later, it might be just down to kind of like 5 or 3, and you can imagine the competition for those last few spots.
Definitely.
That'd be greater.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. How many do you recruit for overall, like numbers wise?
Numbers wise, I knew I'd be opening myself to that as soon as I said a number. So no, we try within the recruitment team, which is made up of myself and Serena. We really try to be transparent as much as possible. So we're recruiting slightly more kind of like graduates and school leavers to last year, which again is a good sign of where we are at as a company, especially given the pandemic. So between graduates and school leavers, we're looking at about 80, and it's normally kind of like a half split. Going back actually to the deadlines, just to make sure I'm also clear on something, areas like London, as people can imagine, are going to be incredibly popular. So the likelihood is London will close a bit earlier. The regional offices might take a little bit longer, and that's why you might see them open for a little bit more than the London ones.
Okay, brilliant. Really good. So I think we've got time for one more question. So I'm going to try and make it a good one. So we heard from Giles, and he's had so much experience and so much time at the firm. And then you mentioned that you've been there. How long was it again? You've been there?
December. I literally joined a few days before the team Christmas party. So I got to see everybody a little bit tipsy within the first week.
That's a great welcome.
Yeah, it was actually. It worked out well. I think I got to know them really quickly.
Oh, that's so nice. And I guess my question linking to that then, how do you find the culture from being there?
Yeah, so it's a tricky one because obviously I joined. My time there has been split pre-lockdown and during lockdown. Now my background is slightly different in that I've got a small family, so one boy who's 6. And for me, the culture of Smith and Williamson really came to the fore at the start of the pandemic and the lockdown. A lot of us were working in offices, in the actual offices. So I was really like, oh well, what's going to happen now? I've got a 6-year-old who can't go to school. What do I do? And it was just absolutely brilliant how quickly we were able to transition to working from home, and just how the message from senior management was, everybody do what you've got to do to make not just work kind of like work, but also your home life work as well. So I didn't have to, carve out any specific times that I was going to be online. My manager simply said, Elma, do what you've got to do. Just do what you've got to do and give me a shout if I can help. I said to you earlier about how Giles and how open he's been as such a senior member of the team to just speaking with me, speaking with candidates and applicants. And I've just got to say across the board, because I think it's always really important to know how approachable the senior management are. I think that really says a lot about the actual culture. And actually, I can have absolutely no qualms in messaging, picking up a phone to our senior leaders and connecting with them, and then being really approachable. And that's one of the things I consistently hear from the trainees, is that access to every seniority. You can be just sitting down in the office, or whether it be online, and you're next to a partner. If you're a trainee, you're next to a partner. And that can really happen. The people are just really friendly, really welcoming, and just very approachable.
And it sounds really supportive, and it's brilliant with the exposure that students get, like you said, sitting next to a partner.
And I think that's it. A lot of our trainees, their big decision before joining us was, do I come to Smith and Williamson, or do I join a bigger firm? And I think what nudged them towards kind of like our size firm is that you've just got access to kind of not just the wide range of clients, but also internally as well. So you learn a lot. Well,
it sounds brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing all of those lovely insights.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening. I'm in the booth. I'm going straight over to our employer booth. I'm also joined there by Serena, who works alongside me in the training recruitment team. And we've also got Matt and Diana, who are 2 trainees currently part of our program. That's if one of them isn't doing their lunch. But please do come and visit us, and happy to answer any more of your questions.
Brilliant. Thanks everyone for listening, and go and chat in the booth, and we'll speak to you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.